They're doing a public service test of the public speaking system. So yeah, you got a rare recording of Taiwan public service announcements.
That's cool.
Anyways.
Hi all, it's James here. I am in Japan. Yay! There's no one around me, but I should put on my mask shortly. Just a quick update. This episode that you're about to listen to, it is filmed in Tainan. I was in Tainan, Taiwan in August of 2021, the year that this episode was released. In this episode, in regards to goals, life, all that good stuff. Hey, human nature. It keeps being human nature. So, with that being said, please enjoy this episode. My last few days in Tainan, Taiwan. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Welcome to Yin Yang the podcast. Yay. We're back. I'm still in Tainan, Taiwan, but I will be heading back to America quite soon, actually. It's kind of making me a little bit anxious, but it's going to be moving on to my next chapter after this. Yeah. Anyways, I wanted to show, it's raining right now. I'll just show everyone out here. See if it's, it's raining.
You're going to come back to an LA that's in a drought. And also,
this is, I think I showed you before, but yeah, it's my bathroom. I'll be leaving this space. Yeah, I'll be gone next week. It's kind of crazy, it's and this is the bunk bed I told you about, but like no one sleeps on the top one. I sleep on the bottom one here. Yeah, the bottom bed. Cool. And then I got a fan that I'm using right now. Actually, I think I can turn this down for sound. It's actually it's kind of chilly in Tainan right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it's warm here.
Yeah.
And then, so you're going to be in the States for how long before you move on to your next adventure?
Yeah, I'm going to Japan end of September. And I will be in the States for a little over a month. Yeah. I've always wanted to live in Japan. I feel like it'd be a fun experience and experience that lifestyle maybe. I don't know if we'll see. I don't know if I would live there a long time just based on the few visits I've been there. I'd have to speak like really good Japanese, I think, if I want to live there. I'm going to study Japanese when I get there for sure. But yeah, have you traveled much of Japan?
I've only at this point I've hit all the major islands except for Shikoku. That's the only island I haven't hit. But I've gone to Hokkaido. I've obviously been to Honshu. I've been to Kyushu. Kyushu, it's been over 20 years, 25 years. But I still want to go to like Akita. I want to go to the Sea of Japan side.
Oh.
I've never been to the Sea of Japan.
And I think with your level of Japanese, like getting around is perfectly fine.
Yeah, getting around is like not a big deal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get to that level. Yeah. My girlfriend, she's been to Kyushu too, and like it's like next to the sea. So I want to check that out. So I do have. I gotta figure out, like I have this rice cooker I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of, and I got a bunch of stuff I need to move out. So I was actually seeing a therapist here in Taiwan. So I went through like 3 sessions, like with 2 different people, like one session with a lady and then 2 sessions with another guy. And it was pretty good because I think for me, it was, I think I had mentioned to you earlier, like this transition from being a single guy for like, for years, probably for as long as you've known me. Yeah. Well, wait, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I've been single since for over 9 years. Oh, it's been like 9 years. Yeah. But yeah, so that transition of going to a girlfriend, it's kind of tough because I those instincts that we've mentioned in previous podcasts of like, oh, wanting to sleep around. You see a hot girl. I see a hot girl and I just like want to go talk to her. I want to sleep with her. Like these instincts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would feel guilty about it because even with a girlfriend, like that doesn't stop, that thirst. So I was like, I kind of probably need to see someone about this, because it's kind of like taking up my mental energy.
Yeah.
And like even, and I would have all these thoughts about like, oh, what about that one girl I talked to who was like friends, who my girlfriend, like there's another girl that I was interested in that knows my girlfriend. I was like, oh, but I never got a chance to actually get to know her. Maybe I should have got her to know her. Then before I settled with this girl, with my current girlfriend, right? And so I had all these thoughts and kind of like regrets. So I talked to a therapist about it. The first therapist, it was like this a Taiwanese woman, and it was good because like both of them, they had studied in the States before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was lucky to go through like a local university and find a therapist. So it was free. I was like, holy shit, it's great. Yeah. Um, so anyways, yeah, the first one, it was kind of like, it's interesting. You've been to therapy before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it one-on-one or was it like couples or?
We've done both. I've done couples. I've done, one-on-one. Yeah.
How many sessions did you do? Did you do a lot or?
With a couple session, it was like every week for a few months, or actually for a while. But I think there's a cultural gap, right?
Yes.
There's a huge cultural gap if you see a therapist that doesn't understand your values, the values that you grow up with,
Yeah.
and the thought process. And I got upset at the couples therapist.
Yeah.
When it was just one-on-one because my wife hadn't shown up yet, and I got upset. And she goes, I don't understand why you're getting upset. I goes, look, you are advocating something that goes against my principles.
Oh, right. You mentioned this before.
The job search, whatever. And she stopped the session there. She started going online and tried to find me a psychiatrist to get me some anxiety drugs. So,
right, which are like level something, like they were like a super addictive drugs.
Super
right?
addictive.
Yeah.
And then I was like, we're done. And
we're done.
I went to go find a therapist for myself, and that guy seemed pretty good.
Is it Asian guy or
Korean? But one thing I found that he was like always talking about was his book. He was like, well, in my book I explained, this and this and this. I was like, oh, great. I can't wait to read it. He goes, oh, I have this manuscript, and he showed me the manuscript, the pages. And I was like, oh, that's good. But it was a lot of that.
Oh, no.
It's like self-promotion in a way.
Self-promotion,
like,
yeah.
Great. But at least he understood culturally the differences. The thought process is a little bit different than going to a Caucasian person or someone who's not Asian.
Yeah, I think so the first lady was nice. She's Taiwanese, but she grew up she had studied in the States. But the problem was she was kind of attractive. And like so I opened up about like my issues. I talked about a little bit about issues with intimacy, issues of like, even I had only been with my girlfriend for a month at that point, but like these feelings of guilt and still wanting to like even having ideas of wanting to cheat and stuff like that. And and even opening up about my sex life. So it was kind of, it was good. I felt like I was basically like digging out all this gunk that was in my head and just like kind of like taking it out. And she offered, you know, and she offered some good insights. It's like, well, why am I making this transition to a relationship? What is the motive behind that? What is it worth it, you know? And is it what are some of the values or ideas that or ideals that I'm pursuing in pursuing a relationship, you know, versus being single, you know, like what are those what are those things that make relationship more important than just sleeping around, right? So I think that was helpful. But I had mentioned to her that that it was really awkward. I had mentioned to her like, hey, thank you so much. Like I was essentially, and it was like, oh, thank you so much. But like, yeah, I still have issues of like just seeing, you know, if I see attractive women, the gears start turning of like, how can I get this girl's number, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And like, to be honest, like, yeah, like even you, I noticed that you're an attractive woman as well. And she's like, oh, thank you. Like, okay. She's like, oh, I mean, she didn't say that. She's like, oh, she said, oh. And then she emailed me and found me like a guy therapist, right?
Yeah.
And so the following week I got a guy therapist, and like exactly what you said, like we started talking, and I mentioned like, you know, I feel like I put a lot, like I had mentioned that another friend of mine had noticed that I seem to put a lot of pressure on myself, and you probably noticed that too. Like I put pressure on myself, and like he said something about, well, you know, and he had studied in the States before. He was actually in like the Midwest before. And he's like, well, you know, like I think as a minority in the US, it's probably really tough. You know, there's a lot of maybe even unconscious pressure that society is placing on you. And also there's maybe some cultural gaps, which cause certain level of tension. And maybe it's because of that, you know, you might be, you might feel like, oh, for you to like be even like considered, be like to be even considered a human, or it's like to be considered like white level status, whatever that means, right? You have to you have to work twice as hard to get half as much, right? As a minority, right? And like when he said that, I was like, I almost like started crying. It's like, holy shit, this guy fucking gets it, you know? Like I was like, holy shit, he fucking gets it, you know? And because I had also, before that conversation, I had shared how, you know, why I went to Taiwan. And part of the reason was I was just needing to get out of the States. I just felt like this building pressure of like being an Asian in America, and like, you know, he was really surprised. He thought like, oh, California must be super like liberal and very loving and all encompassing. But I told him like about, you know, that the like homeless lady telling me to go back to China, right? Or like, and he was just like taken aback because he had an okay experience in that, you know, sure, there's still microaggressions, whatever, but for the most part, people were like, he's Taiwanese, you know, can't really like, you know, he's an outsider. He's you know, I can't they held him to like different standards, you know, like, oh, he doesn't understand, you know, like or I don't know. Basically, he didn't have that experience. So he was really taken aback when he heard that. So anyways, yeah, so I talked to him, and this last session just yesterday was good. It was like I almost felt like, because what he had pinpointed for me was, I think that I think these feeling, this transition from being single is basically, I had to figure out like, well, I think I had figured out, you know, thanks to like some talking it out, was that maybe I was just tired of being single, you know?
Yeah.
And that the reason like I feel that I'm transitioning to a relationship is like, okay, I've done the single thing. I've kind of explored that and realized that it didn't resolve the issues of loneliness and sadness that I was experiencing. It was a good, I learned a lot about myself, but then maybe I think issues and problems never stop. So maybe I think I'm open to exploring the issues and obstacles that come with a relationship because those are more refreshing and more new because I haven't been in a relationship in a long time. And I found someone, and this person who I am in a relationship now, I feel is worth. It's raining really hard. Oh shit!
Can't even hear it though.
And this person I feel that I'm with now is worth um, exploring and facing some of those, that I guess adventure,
Yeah.
So this last session, so that was like our first session. Then the last session yesterday, we had talked over. Yeah, I felt like I was actually in a good spot. I had worked out earlier that day. I think sleep and working out helps, and I was feeling pretty good. And he told me at the end of the session, I asked him, "Hey, do you feel like I need another session?" He's like, "Oh, I'm leaving for." I told him that I'm leaving for America soon, and he's like, "You know what? I think you're good. You're great, actually." I think also part of the reason because I was leaving. But he felt like I was doing better, and these thoughts that I had, the thoughts I had were like, they're like passing trains, right? And like,
Yeah.
if you grab onto it, you're gonna get pulled and dragged along the ground. But if you just realize like you have these thoughts, either like cheating or even like weird, like even bad thoughts. Sometimes I have like these weird bad thoughts that come up. Like I just want to like, oh, things are going well in this relationship. How can I destroy this relationship? Like how can I self-sabotage? Kind of like what Lillian was talking about, right? How
Yeah.
can I sabotage this relationship? And I realized like, oh, well, these are just thoughts that pop up, maybe because of like childhood trauma, whatever. But like these are just thoughts, and then just look at it, but don't feed it, don't give it energy. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm in a better place. Like I still, no one's 100%, but like I even towards the end of the session, I felt like, oh, I feel like I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to like I'm trying to like I'm trying to fill up time, like I'm trying to like dig out like, okay, whatever, what can I use this time and like dig out some stuff. Yeah, it's interesting because like basically he just listens and then maybe makes a few points, but like I think it's I don't know if you got this feeling, but at the end of the day, you have to figure it out for yourself, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to go home. You're the person that goes home with yourself. So and yeah, I don't know. So I think it was good. I think having an Asian male therapist, I think made a huge difference. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So that's been good for me. And yeah, I remember at our first podcast I mentioned I had listed some goals. So like one was like finding a girlfriend, and yeah, yay, I found one. So but like yeah, that's not something that it's like basically the teacher appears when the student is ready, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like because I've done I've done a lot of self work, I think, and the person I met now, I like her outlook. She's the kind of person that says, oh, a boyfriend or girlfriend is not the other person's property. They're their own person. They have their own space. And I think that I liked her maturity, so that's made me want to like, okay, I want to see this through, see how it goes. Yeah.
Right.
And the other goal I had was like, yeah, improving my Mandarin, which I'm taking Mandarin classes. And then another goal was like figure out my skin issue. And I think my skin's getting a lot better. The other goal was a little more vague. It was like, oh, figure out my life. Yeah, I guess it's hard for what are the action items for that, like I guess
Well,
career coach. Career coach is good. That's nice.
career
Yeah,
coach or a life coach.
life coach. Maybe I should look into a career coach. Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, I had one of the exercises was to go and talk to a former colleague or mentor or classmate or manager or subordinate, and see what and ask these, like, there are some questions I had to ask them, and I didn't know that I didn't have those questions before my first conversation with my friend who was both a classmate from USC, and he was my manager at one point for like 3 months because he hired me to work at the bank. And
Yeah.
so it's a little bit more free form, and he provided me with positive stuff and then provided me with things that I needed to improve, and some of the things that I already knew quite a bit. He did share with me that he was a little bit disappointed that I didn't finish a project to his expectations, and I wish he would have voiced that during that time so I could have made it better. But other than that, uh, he made a point of I should accept the decisions I've made at the time that I made them. And I know that I always have been grappling with this because hindsight's always 2020, and I go, I wish I would have done this or that, lots of regrets. But in the end, I made those decisions based upon the information I had at that time. So I should accept them and not wonder about what could have been
Yeah.
and what might be, right? I I know that everyone should still strive to get to a better spot if they're not happy with what they're where they are. But you should also be satisfied or happy or grateful for the things that you do have. So those are things that I knew that I've been grappling with, as I'm getting older. So those are things that are not new to me. And one of the other things was like I kind of made some decisions looking around at what other people had and I didn't have, and I'm asking to find a situation where it's similar to somebody else's that I'm looking and envying, or whether they're just working from home. Everyone's working from home right now, but back in like 9 years ago, 10 years ago, people weren't working from home, and I saw some people getting away with it, and I was like, oh, how can I do that?
Oh, yeah.
Rather than worrying about doing the best that I could and not worrying about any inconveniences as far as geography was concerned, commuting times and stuff. Because I remember my first job was like 5 miles away, but it was still like 45-minute commute. So
Freaking, is it LA or?
that was San Jose. I commuted
Oh,
from
really?
I commuted from South San Jose, not even South San Jose. It was like Capital Expressway to right around the San Jose airport, and that took me 45 minutes every morning.
Oh, wow. Because which freeway you have to take 680
101,
or 101? Oh,
101.
forget fuck 101. The 101 is like terrible. Like what
Yeah.
happened? Yeah,
I-
yeah.
And then so I've always been commuting, and
Oh,
at one point I used to commute like 2 hours one way, by train and by car, or
oh
by train and by
Jesus.
bus, for this one job for like a year and a few months, and I hated that. If I drove, it was like an hour and a half. If I took the train, it's 2 hours. So I thought I could sleep on the train, but it's not very restful, right? Because you don't want to oversleep and miss your stop.
Yeah, you have to set an alarm or something, but
Yeah,
sometimes you
but
can't hear it. Yeah, yeah.
well, not even that. Like the Metrolink is never like on time.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I wouldn't just never, but they have a very low accuracy rate. It's not Japan where you can
It's
set your
not
clock to
Japan.
it.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like as you're getting older, like uh that the regrets, like you're more, what's the word? You you look back more often, you kind of look back at the past more often. You're more like, and you feel like the regrets build up, or do you feel like you're still um like still forward looking and trying to uh kind of like have a beginner's mind, I guess. Yeah.
It's a little both. I think maybe about 5 years ago, I was like regretting one or two decisions I made, because I made those decisions based upon ideas like, again, about the value system I grew up with versus no one was there to mentor me. I mean, my dad was around, but my parents were divorced, so I didn't really have like a strong father figure. So no one to provide that guidance of how to navigate the corporate world. Even if my dad was there, he never worked in the corporate world uh, for a long time, at least in the U.S. So I don't think that would have helped at all. But to have had a mentor early on would have helped, to help me make those decisions. And I didn't have that, and I still kind of don't have it. I have people I can ask questions of, but not a true mentor. And then so I think mentorship is very important. I
Mm.
want to be there for my parents, or not my parents, but my kids when they're navigating that world, what they should really think about, because in the end, there's no loyalty from companies, right? You have to do what's best for you. You might burn some bridges, but as long as you're going to a better situation, um, I I let my loyalty or family relationships keep me or keep me from pursuing other jobs when was offered a job with this family friend, and I should have just like ditched it and pursued the other jobs. And if I got the other job, just left because it would have been a better situation. In the end, I mean, that job, it didn't pan out and like I didn't fit in, they didn't think I fit in, and we parted ways. So I should have just done what was best in my best interest and not worry about um, familial relationships. I had to just, uh, I always tell my friends, I didn't curate my career quite well enough.
Hmm. So it
So
sounds like in a way you have, it sounds kind of bad, but you have to be a little selfish in a way, I guess.
you have to be selfish because no company is going to like be really loyal to you, right? As soon as like things go down and they need to cut costs, people are gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been like through a couple layoffs already. So and that's why the regret part is I've already done those thoughts of like years and thinking about what I did wrong. But now I'm like, oh, I gotta like figure things out. I'm closer to like retirement than I was 20 years ago. So now I'm like going to a career coach and I was like, what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? And having these conversations with former managers. I'm going to have a conversation on Saturday with another manager and
Mm.
um, and get those ideas, that feedback. I need that constructive feedback because
Mm.
without knowing how people perceive me, then there's no way to move forward.
Right, right. That's good. So like you're still a student. You're still like you still have
Yeah,
a mindset of like you're learning and you're still growing. I think that's great, you know. I think a
well,
lot of people, yeah.
I'm not Elon Musk and I'm not Jeff Bezos. I can't just like sit back and like go fly in a rocket ship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I saw some of those pictures. That's yeah, I have mixed feelings about that.
Everybody does.
Yeah, like I think it'd be oh, that's kind of cool, but like yeah, could that money have been better spent than like a what a ego boost, I guess, or ego yeah.
Well, you know what? That money is spent and that's fine, but he still has a ton of money that could spend for other things, right? It's not that money is good, right? It's for innovation, it's to move mankind forward. But that doesn't mean that it's not a zero sum game. That money didn't have to be the rocket or this other stuff because he has more than enough money to for the rocket and for the other stuff.
Right, 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 right. Yeah.
He's the
So,
richest. Those are the two richest guys in the world, right? Bezos
right.
and Musk. They can afford to go play with their toys, but they can also afford to do other things with their money.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be a zero sum game. I mean, they're doing something for the benefit of humanity because we're clearly not moving the needle forward in terms of exploration and space technologies and things like that. But it doesn't mean that they can't also spend money and their time and effort to help humanity on Earth right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, um changing like I'm thinking about that like I do feel like there's a lot of issues on earth. There's like political issues, there's like yeah, but at the end of the day is like they have their own interests, right? Like kind of like
Yeah.
what you're talking about, these corporate interests and basically, yeah, Musk, he wants to go to Mars because it's cool. You know,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of cool. But like, there's only limited, yeah, each human only has a limited amount of energy and focus, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Speaking of that, for the like one thing I noticed here in Taiwan, as far as like people, you know, in each country when they show the Olympics, right? They focus on their own country. I noticed that, right? So they only broadcast. So so it's very interesting because I'm here in Taiwan and I'll turn on the TV and watch Olympics, especially more recently, like these past couple of days, and it's like, wow, I understand this. I think I understand more why Taiwanese people are because it's a smaller country and it's kind of like an underdog. And
Yeah.
this season of Olympics, Taiwan has been doing much better than in the past.
Yeah.
So has been this like kind of like nationalistic fervor, right? So nationalism, I think in the US has a really, you know, bad taste because of its connection with white nationalists, right?
Right.
And but I think it for some reason, like for me and living in Taiwan, it's like I had watched this like a YouTuber talk about it. It's like, well, in context, like, okay, there's this bigger country, China, that says like, no, you're part of me, you're a part of my country.
Yeah.
So I think the Taiwanese nationalism or Taiwanese pride, in a sense, is a response to that, in a response to like, well, no, we are our own people, we're our own country. So I think in that sense, and I see you can see this playing out in the Olympics. Like, yeah, the Taiwanese people are like, they're all, you know, you go to a shop, you know, they're watching the Taiwanese team playing, you know, ping pong or whatever,
Yeah.
and also recently there was a battle between the badminton. This women's singles was like a Taiwanese player versus a Chinese player. So like my friend was like, hey, I was asking my friend, hey, do you want to meet up? He's like, oh, sorry, I'm gonna be watching the badminton match tonight. And I totally get it because like, yeah, the Chinese player won, but it was a pretty close match, and but like it's interesting because now I feel like, wait, why didn't I feel this when I was watching like US teams, you know, like I feel it a little bit if I know the person's story, like the athlete story.
Yeah.
Especially with like, do you remember the Winter Olympics where there's like a lot of Asian American athletes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I felt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt it then. Like, oh yeah, you know, Karen Chen and like the guy who could do the quadruple loop or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Michelle, whatever her name was.
There's a Japanese American, right? Yeah.
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 Out of LA.
Out of LA, and there's the guy. What's his name? I think his last name's Chen as well. Yeah. But and there's Sunisa Lee, the Hmong American who got the gold recently. So I hear about this, and I wonder like, damn, am I racist? You know, am I like yeah?
I don't think that's racist. It's like representation, right? They are basically Asian Americans just like you, and that's what it goes back to representation in media, right? You cannot relate to Superman or Batman or Spider-Man or any of these superheroes because they are not Asians. And a lot of the TV shows, you know, those people do not look like me, right?
Yeah.
That's why it'd be different if they look like me. And that's why when we see an Asian American who probably had similar experiences or something similar when they were growing up and they start doing well, then we can get back behind them because we're cheering for them, right? We can see ourselves in them because they had to go through different struggles to get to where they are. And
right.
It brings that sense of pride that an Asian American can succeed against, you know, whatever the microaggressions are or whatever they face on a daily basis.
Yeah. I think I think we just inherently know that Asian person who's standing on the podium, they had to work harder than most people, you know, like, than other athletes, because they grew up in a white dominated straight male society, you know, and we just intrinsically know like, fuck, that girl had to probably work harder than most, right? Yeah, yeah. You know, not to downplay all the other athletes who did well, like Jade
Right.
Carey, or you know, they work super hard too. But there's a little bit of that of there's some racial baggage they probably had to work through.
Yeah.
And I think for Taiwan and seeing Taiwanese athletes, like we can't even, you know, use our own flag. And our team is called our team's called Chinese Taipei. You know, like of course, you know, like if it's gonna be Taiwan versus China, fuck yeah, I'm gonna support Taiwan. You know, like
Yeah.
it's like because I think as for me, I mean, I think people are interested in the underdog story. And China and the US, they have like so many freaking medals. Like, you know, like, so for Taiwan to get a couple medals, I think it's I'm gonna root for them. Yeah, yeah. So
Have to.
yeah, I just feel like if I see a white American win another gold medal, I'm like, you know, like in swimming, we always win swim. America has always win swimming. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, yay, you know, good, yay,
Well,
America.
yeah, I mean, we've always had to go against the Australians.
Oh, really? Yeah.
The Australians were always pretty good, but I mean, we've also had a lot of, like you said, we've been pretty dominant in swimming with Michael Phelps.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, and now Katie Ledecky.
Oh, okay. Are you gonna
Anyways,
watch? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
you have to get going soon, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna get going in a bit. I'm curious to see the karate though. Yeah, I still have like maybe 5 minutes, but yeah, I'm curious to see. Are you gonna watch the karate, or I don't know if they are gonna even show it. I don't know.
I probably have to catch YouTube highlights.
Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, just in closing, I think my trip to Taiwan, because this might be our last podcast of me in Taiwan for the time being, for this trip. It's been really fruitful. I think I
got a girlfriend.
I got a girlfriend. Yeah. I got a girlfriend. I've been able to help. I've been seeing a Chinese doctor help clear up my skin, which has been, I think, good for my mental health as well. I thought about my direction in life. I think the trip to Japan and working as an English teacher, I don't know if I want to be. I don't want to be an English teacher for my whole life. But I think if anything, that'll be a good experience, a multicultural experience. Get more teaching experience. So if I ever return to teaching in the U.S., I'll have, you know, some more tools under my belt if I want to pursue a teaching career. And I want to continue writing more and filming stuff here and there as well. Yeah. So I think if anything, I've gained a lot from this trip, and I think if from listening to like the previous, like the quarantine podcast, I feel like I think I'm in a better place. Yeah. And it sounds like you're in a better place with the coaching and stuff too. That's good too. Yeah.
It's only the beginning. It's only the beginning.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right. Anyways, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. I hope things get better. And this has been a good trip. I hope to see. Yeah, we can talk after this, but let's try to set up maybe meet up for, you know, before I head out again. Maybe sometime. Yeah. All right. Thank you, young listeners. This is James signing off, or AKA Young signing off.
This is Yen signing off.
All right, cool. I'm gonna stop recording.